My next guest needs this video introduction so you can understand the kind of fire
let's get
that
something
she
straight.
brings.
This didn't happen overnight. If you think Trump and Elon just snapped their fingers and started destroying our democracy, I need you to wake up. They didn't break the system. They're operating it exactly as it was designed. This administration and the chaos they've unleashed are the product of decades of policies that protect corporate profits over people, policies that let billionaires buy elections, policies that crush working people under the weight of debt, poverty, and exploitation, all while the rich get richer. I love this city. I was born and raised in this city, and I ride for my city every day. But if you think LA doesn't feel the impact of those policies because of our so-called progressivism, I hate to break it to you. Look around. Ask the person next to you if they have a savings. Ask them if they're buried in student debt. Ask them if they can afford rent, if they have health care, if they think they'll ever be able to buy a house in this city. This administration wants you to believe that the reason you can't buy eggs is because of your immigrant neighbor. They want you to blame trans folks for your troubles, blame unhoused people for the housing crisis, blame anyone but the people actually profiting from our pain. You know what I say to that? Bullshit.
Please welcome council member for District 1. You had to wait. Eunisses Hernandez, welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate this. I want to ask you, kind of in this similar vein, I think it was really important that you were at that Fight Oligarchy tour because you were a politician who comes from an organizing background, and that I think a lot of people need that fight right now. We're not seeing that from the top. And so it was very inspiring that you were there and you said exactly what you said. I want to ask you, just getting really into the gritty right now about the impact of this, of really fascism coming down on the city of LA, especially when it comes to the immigrant community. You know, we know this is a sanctuary city, but at the same time, there are ICE raids constantly popping off, and sometimes I'm like, okay, is that in which municipality of the, is that the county, is it, you know, and you're like, but it's like, it doesn't matter. This is a blue state, this is a, you know, blue city, and people are being terrorized. What has, you know, what city council been doing, and what have you been doing? How have you been supporting your constituents, and like, you know, where do we go from what in terms of defense here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking, especially with everything that's happening. So during Trump's first administration, Mayor Garcetti made the city into a city of sanctuary, which was, we will not use our city staff, our policies, our resources to implement federal immigration enforcement laws. But that wasn't permanent. And so if a new administration came in, like a Rick Caruso, for example, he could just take that away from us. And so me and my colleagues worked very hard to pass a city ordinance to make Los Angeles a sanctuary city for real. Yeah. But I want to be very clear on that. Although we are a sanctuary city, the federal government could do whatever they want. ICE doesn't need LAPD to do their job. They don't need our databases to do their job. They've already been having access to our databases, the information of where our people live. Our immigrant communities, they pay millions upon millions of dollars in taxes through ITINs. They can find people. It's not about if they can or not, they can. And we can pass the policies that we want, and there are protections, and we're covering the loopholes, and we're investing in know your rights education, but the defense is gonna be really at the block by block level. You know, we have people putting pictures up, ICE is here. Oftentimes it's like 20, 15 minutes after the incident has happened. By then it's too late to do anything. And so what we've been trying to invest in is block by block, know your rights and education, because what we've seen is that in places where people know their rights, ICE is having a hard time getting them. But we just saw them in San Diego. They were using smoke bombs today and flashbangs. Like they are taking our people. And what I really would hope is that we can model more of what places like Chicago do, the things that they do, literally hooking themselves up arm by arm, stopping these vehicles. And that's a lot to ask. That's putting your body on line. That's putting our bodies on the line. But from how the administration is moving, that's, I think, going to be one of the only real ways we're going to keep people together. And even then, this administration has shown that they are not forgiving and that they don't have any mercy. And I just want us to be very clear about that. We can't keep pretending that it's not happening. It's happening right before our eyes in this county, in Pomona and Home Depot. It's happening. We need to do the work.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because, like, my mind is always like, well, if the cops won't participate in the raids, could they maybe help stop the raid? I mean, we got all this money for the cops. I want to talk about, the budget a little bit. Maybe they could get in the way. That's a dream, right?
That's a dream, yes.
Okay, that's a dream. Not necessarily.
What a crazy turn of events that would be.
I mean, it would be great if they solved crime.
Woke.
I want to ask about, maybe let's talk about your time in office, because the last time you were actually on my show and you were running and you beat Gil Cedillo, who was an incumbent. You're now running for re-election because this is your last year, and everybody listening, please support. And I wanna ask you about, like, you come from an organizer background. You're the daughter of immigrants. What is it like actually being in the halls of power now? What's the tea? What's the thing you didn't expect? Not all the tea, I know you can't, but, like, what's the thing you didn't expect, and what should we know as people who are not where you are?
What I would say is that there is more power than we can even imagine being in these positions. Literally, like, the condition of your life is run by the government, whether it's the local, county, or state level, federal level. And we know that, right? When we think about Medicare, when we think about those things, like, yes, those are direct impacts. But the quality of your life, whether there's trash or weeds or whether your lights work, that is all local. But even then, like, the power that is there, it is so, how do I say this? It is up for sale. And so one of the most shocking things to me that I tried to avoid was, my first campaign, I didn't take any special interest group money. Not a single dollar from developers, real estate. We refunded that back because I crack under pressure. But, I'm like, no, if they put me between a hard rock, a place in a corner, like, I don't know what'll happen. But, like, I see corporations, lobbyists making calls to colleagues on the council floor and votes changing. I see that those corporations, special interest groups, will lobby and invest in my colleagues so much that even the arguments that they use in chambers don't make sense. But they're arguing for the wrong things. And so that, to me, has been the most shocking of, like, how powerful actually money is, and how we need to get more of us in these seats that are not sold out. Because whether we have rent control, that is up to our local government. I asked Gavin Newsom once about rent control, and his answer was like a 5-minute dance to tell me, well, no, that's not, we're not doing that. And so I think for me that has been the most shocking, but it's also for me the most liberating because I don't get those calls.
Yeah.
They're not calling me to do things, and that helps me fight.
I wanted to talk to you about, because I think one of the ways I saw that take place was in the votes that came down after the fires. Obviously, we're just a few months out of these incredible fires. Thousands, 13,000 homes lost. Tens of thousands displaced. We're gonna have Denton on in just a second. And I'm so sorry because we're feeling rushed for time, and I wish we could stay here for a lot longer. But I'm just gonna name that. But you saw when people were speaking for rent control in the city, because the county was able to pass it, but the city was not. It was like person who represented landlord after landlord after landlord after, realtor after realtor, and then, like, one person, and was always like, I'm a mom and pop landlord. I only have $4 million, and, like, and then you're like, oh, and then you see people who are, like, trying to get their public comment in or whatnot, and they're completely outnumbered because that's not their job. Whereas these, like, representatives of big real estate, that's their job day in and day out. So anyway, but I did want to ask you about looking in the future. LA, we're still gonna have the Olympics somehow, but I think a lot of us are scared. Like, damn, is this city not prepared for something like these wildfires? And as climate change and inequality sort of, collide as they have, and we've seen, like, what is the way forward? What's the vision for really making the city safe and livable? I mean, it's a huge question, but just as per climate and preparedness.
Well, let me tell you about stuff that's messed up and then the good stuff.
Please.
Why, what we could do. So, and I'm sure some of y'all have heard this and me say this already, but it takes us 10 years to fix a sidewalk in the city of LA. That's if your sidewalk gets on the fix-it list. 3 to 5 years to install a blue handicap curb, which is just painting a sign. It takes us a year to fix a street light. We can't chew gum and walk as a city if you compared us to other cities like Chicago, Boston. Like we don't do things very well because there has not been incentives to invest in our city, invest in the infrastructure of our city. So you ask about the Olympics. How are we gonna host thousands of people when right now it takes us 10 years to fix a sidewalk? We don't have enough buses to go around, you know? Our transit system is one that we have not invested in both at the city level or at the county level, right? We need that. If there's gonna be a no-car Olympics, we need transportation. There's a lot of pieces that we also don't have. Let me take one step back and also say, we are spending lots of money on paying out lawsuits because we don't fix our city.
Yeah.
A piece of a light pole fell on somebody, it costs us $21 million to pay out that lawsuit. $21 million is the entire bureau that oversees all the copper wire theft and reinforcing our street pole system. And so our city is broken, the Olympics are coming. I don't know how we're gonna handle the Olympics, and we're gonna be left with a bag of debt, but, I'm not in favor of the Olympics. I know people have different thoughts. We want to see as much investment as we can from the Olympics, but this will be a Donald Trump Olympics. Do not get that twisted. If the Olympics are coming, we're going to need federal resources. But this is the good part, right? And this is the budget part, because everybody says my tax dollars pay for the government, my tax dollars pay for City Hall. You're right, they do. And do you know that 45% of your locally generated tax dollars or general funds go to LAPD, and less than 0.5% goes into the entire Bureau of Street Lighting? That's your tax dollars right there locally. And so this is the fight that is the good part that I'm excited about, that we just finished a budget process where we cut LAPD hiring in half.
Yeah.
And we were able to use that money to invest in our graffiti removal, after school programs, unarmed crisis response teams, so you could have appropriate teams answer mental health crises. So that's the opportunity I see, that for the next few budget cycles, because we are in a budget crisis, because we're so broke, is a moment for fiscal responsibility. We would have never been able to do that police hiring cut if it wasn't because we were in such a crisis, and that's the good part.
Right.
We have many opportunities coming up to fix our city and to make it hopefully handle the events that are coming, but the Olympics are not the only thing coming. The Super Bowl, the World Cup, there's so many things, and
I
beyond
forgot
that,
about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How did I fucking forget?
all of those things, and that's next year. The World Cup is next year. And we have not built the housing where we need to house our folks. They're gonna try to disappear people on the streets. We've seen it.
Paige, can you just go forward to, I think we're gonna solve the transportation question. I don't know.
Their stocks are increasing. You know that?
Yeah, this is
They're
called
booming.
This is the Joby. This is a personal helicopter system they're gonna roll out for the Olympics.
Wait, what is it called? Joby?
Joby! Yay!
Yeah, helicopters that rhyme with Kobe. Smart. Smart for LA.
Oh my God.
I'm allowed to say that. I loved him.
Can I just
Until,
add something
you know.
about the Olympics?
There is so much. Yes,
Can I just add
please.
just quickly about the Olympics, because, and I know that you ended that on a very positive note, but I want to bring us back a little bit. The Olympics is already running over projected costs, and we, taxpayers in this room, will be picking up the bill for any of the overages. So we will be paying more. Anytime we have an event like the Olympics, it is a national special security event, which means that DHS will be on the ground here in LA. So I think any gains that we can make in terms of an abolitionist city, which I want and you want as well, and many people want, will most likely be undone by the fact that the Olympics will be Trump's Olympics. And he will want to disappear people and will want to invest more money into bullshit like that, these cars, these gondolas, helicopters, things like that. So I want to keep progressing into an abolitionist future, but the last 8 years that they had to prepare for the Olympics as a city, they didn't take that opportunity. We have 3 more years to prepare, and I think it's going to be as messy as it's been. And I feel like any progress we make, if the Olympics happen, because I push back on the idea that they will be
Meaning
undone.
it might not? Ooh, what? Give me a percentage.
It just doesn't have to. We can decide that it's not going to happen. We can decide that. We didn't get to decide. We are literally in control of the city. We are in control. It's our neighbors, it's our communities, it's our council members that we get elected who fucking rock. And that's who gets to make the decisions. So I don't know if they'll happen. We have 3 years to make sure that they don't happen.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah, I love it. Look, we have to bring out, because he's been waiting so patiently, he is a member of the Rent Brigade, which is an awesome organization that sprung up after the fires in the wake of all of this, in the face of all of this price gouging on the rental market. Please welcome Denton Cohen, our final chair. He's so far away. Really quick, because I feel like the Rent Brigade, Denton, is like a hopeful story, but tell me about how you guys formed.
Yeah, so, really cool. I want to shout out Chelsea Kirk, who I think is here in the audience today. She's a terrific tenant advocate and organizer who, while the fires were still burning, thought to herself, I bet there are some landlords taking advantage of this, and so she got on Zillow, and what she found was that not only were there a bunch of units that were already on the market that landlords were deciding to jack up the prices on, but she was also finding that a bunch of new listings were entering the rental market suddenly at extraordinarily high prices because they knew that they were desperate people out there, some of them wealthy from the Palisades, and that they'd pay whatever price was out there. And so she created a spreadsheet, a public spreadsheet, and put it on Instagram, sort of expecting that some of her tenant organizer buddies would maybe put in a few listings, because it's all on Zillow. We can see it, and it kind of went viral, which is really cool. And that's how I found out about it. A friend sent it to me and was like, "Yo, look at what's going on! People are exposing these landlords."
There are 1,500 There's over 1,500 listings right now.
So,
which is wild. It keeps going and keeps getting added to. So tell me maybe some of the most egregious price gouging stories or.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're sitting down because. Unfortunately, the number is actually over 10,000 at this point. It just passed that this week. These are confirmed. Yeah. These are listings that, again, publicly on Zillow. We scrape Zillow every day. So we're seeing new listings come onto the market every day.
It's not just me dreaming. It's
exactly.
Also
it's very real. And so, we're over 10,000 listings that have been illegally rent gouged. And just to make that clear, price gouging is illegal. Vacant units, it doesn't matter until 2026, January 7th, 2026, the 1-year anniversary, because we're under a state of emergency. In the state of California, you cannot post a rental unit that is over 160% of fair market rate, and you cannot raise the price of a unit by more than 10%, right? 10,000 instances of this happening. And so I'll give you my favorite example of rent gouging. So there was someone who had kind of the misfortune of posting a rental listing on January 7th, the day the fires broke out. It was a 3-bedroom in Santa Monica, about $3,000, right, a month. January 8th, they raised that shit by $900. Wow. $900. And then January 9th, they raised it by $1,000 more. $1,000 more. And so, there are too many of these cases to count, and it's not just these individual listings that are so egregious. We have corporate landlords who, have dozens of these units that they have illegally gouged across LA, including Steve Witkoff, who is mentioned on this show all the time. I mean, he's, one of Trump's buddies who, they have...
trying to do peace in the Middle East. Let him price gouge.
Yeah. I mean, and so he's, he's doing that shit right here in LA, Jesus. And he's trying to export that to Gaza. So, these are the people that we're talking about here. And we'll get into this, but we're not enforcing these laws. It's out in the open and they're getting away with it.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask Eunisses. Where's our law? That's the thing is you see there's a cavalier nature to the landlords. They don't think that, they don't have the fear of God. They don't have the fear of eviction. They know they can kind of get away with it. And yes, there's going to be public shaming, which is awesome. But what's the recourse? I mean, is City Hall aware? Do we know that this is happening?
Yes, we actually used that database to try to pass ordinance after the fires to prevent evictions and prevent rent increases. I couldn't get it passed in the council. I couldn't because corporate landlords like AGLA, which is the apartment associations, boo, hell yeah. They are so powerful and so messed up. You have no idea. The reason why we don't have rent control is because of these landlords. And 75% of all housing stock here in the city of LA that's a rental unit is owned by a corporate landlord like Blackstone. And I tried. At the county, they did it.
70%?
75% of all rental units are owned by people like or corporations like Blackstone that impact what policies we can or cannot pass.
Because I think that's the other thing, Denton, and we have to wrap, but like, you know, I think a lot of we're talking about, okay, who's rebuilding and who, Matt's sister was displaced, her home burnt out, but also they had the privilege of having a home. When we think about the renters, I mean, what about the people, affected by the Eden fires who rented? It seems like their stories certainly didn't make the news at the time, but maybe.
Absolutely. And I think what we're seeing now is sort of the natural outcome of a rental market in LA that, number one, does not have enough we do not have enough housing here.
Yeah.
But housing is housing is a commodity in our economy. It's not a right. It's not treated as a right. And so when you have commodified housing, when you take over 10,000 homes off the market because they burnt down, and when you have tens of thousands of people who are without a home, like, we live in a capitalist economy, like supply and demand, right? And so landlords are using this to reset the rental market in LA. And let's be very clear. We have rent control, we have an RSO, and so when you have a vacant unit during normal times, you can raise the rent on that as much as you want, and that's why these landlords are harassing tenants to try to get them out of their rent-controlled units. But this price gouging law is really important because it prevents landlords from raising the rent more than 10%. And unfortunately, Heidi Feldstein-Soto was mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. She's choosing to not enforce this law, and I think we should be really clear about that.
Oh, we have other reasons to tweet at her.
We have so many reasons.
I love this.
She's also up for election.
Yes, she is.
Oh.
There's a phenomenal lawyer named Marissa Roy who's running against her.
Say her name one more time.
Marissa Roy.
Marissa Roy. All right. Love it. Eunisses, I have a million other questions for you, but can you just give us some parting words and also tell us how people can support you in your campaign for re-election?
Thank you. Yes. So, if you would ask me my first year, I would have been like how I'm doing, how I like it. I would have been like, I fucking hate it here. But now I'm in year 3, having to launch a re-election. And what I can say is that being in this position, it really is an opportunity to fight for our communities, fight to keep people in their housing, fight to have a good quality of life, nice streets. Like, that is not impossible. And that's what I'm finding out, that a lot of the things that we have felt have been impossible for so long are not. It's just that the people in power haven't given a fuck about that, haven't cared about us because they're lining their pockets. And I don't say that as an exaggeration. I truly say that people benefit off not caring about our people. And so if you could please support us. I am the #1 target of billionaires and corporations here in the city of Los Angeles. There's a PAC called Thrive LA that's being funded by people like Rick Caruso and other billionaires that know that they can't call me and I won't fold. So they want to take me out. So as many people as we can have knocking doors, making calls. If you can, please donate. If you live in the city, you donate $143, we multiply it by 6 because that's what we do as a city to get candidates in that are from the community. So please support us, help us beat these corporations and billionaires, and help us fight for a better budget that meets the needs of our city. And again, thank you so much for having me. And we can do this. We can fight for our city, and we will. And I know that things seem kind of like really gloomy right now because of what's happening in the federal government. Not just gloomy, but the defense.
I like gloomy is a really sweet way. It's like a very Winnie the Pooh storybook way of saying. It's kind of gloomy.
But there's so much crisis that we can fix here in the city, and that's where I believe the defense is, and that's where I'm going to throw down. So I just need your help to do that.
Thank you, Eunisses. Guys, we had a whole last segment. We were going to fix Hollywood, but we are being rushed out of a stage, off this stage. Please make it so loud for everyone you've seen here tonight. For Denton Cohen of the Rent Brigade. Denton, how can people find your work and support Rent Brigade?
We are at rentbrigade.org, and most importantly, we're on Instagram at The Rent Brigade.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. do it.